지난 2023년 10월 7일 새벽 6시 반쯤 가자 지구의 하마스는 이스라엘을 향해서 로켓을 쏘면서 기습 공격을 감행했습니다. 뿐만 아니라 하마스는 가자 지구의 철조망을 뚫고 오토바이와 트럭을 이용해서 이스라엘 쪽으로 넘어와서 그 지역 인근에 있는 나할 우즈, 크파르 아자, 스데롯, 또 베리 키부츠 이런 마을들을 찾아다니면서 집집마다 찾아가서 그곳에 있는 유대인 거주민들을 향해서 총과 칼뿐만 아니라 온갖 다양한 흉기를 이용해서 아주 잔혹하게 학살을 했고요. 또 대피소로 대피한 이스라엘 민간인들을 죽이기 위해서 대피소의 철문을 폭파시키고 그 안에 있는 그 대피 주민들을 학살하기까지 했습니다. 그렇게 하마스로부터 집중 공격을 받고 있었던 여러 그 마을 중에 하나가 바로 가자 지구에서 불과 4km 떨어져 있는 베리 키부츠라는 곳인데요. 이곳에서도 역시 하마스의 기습 공격으로 인해서 하루 사이에 불과 7시간 만에 약 100명 이상의 주민들이 살해됐고요. 또 40여 명의 주민들이 인질로 끌려간 곳이기도 하죠. 그야말로 10월 7일 생지옥 같은 시간을 보냈던 그 베리 키부츠. 그렇게 하마스가 온갖 악행을 벌이던 그 시간에 정말 천만다행으로 대피소로 피난했다가 12시간 만에 목숨을 건져서 살아난 생존한 유대인 부부가 있습니다. 그 부부가 이번에 한국을 방문하셨고요. 또 저희 브레드 TV에도 찾아와 주셨습니다. 바로 베네딕트 킹 그리고 메이라브 킹 부부이십니다. 오늘은 이 두 분과 함께 생각하고도 쉽지 않겠지만 우리 한국 사람들이 그날의 이 상황들을 뉴스로만 통해서 또 외신으로만 통해서 들어왔기 때문에 제대로 전달되지 않은 것도 좀 있을 것 같습니다. 그래서 오늘은 당사자들에게 직접 이야기를 들어보는 시간을 갖도록 하죠. 어서 오십시오. 반갑습니다. 이스라엘은 아직도 전쟁 중입니다. 아무리 뭐 해가 지나고 시간이 지난다고 해도 그때의 아픔과 상처는 뭐 쉽게 지워지지 않겠지만 그런 와중에 두 부부께서 이렇게 한국을 방문해 주셨어요. 이번에 한국에 오신 특별한 이유가 있습니까?
Yes, we came here to tell the story of what happened in Israel. For us, the trauma is ongoing because things are still happening, but it's very important for the world to know.
두 분이 사시던 곳이 베리 키부츠예요. 그 아까도 제가 말씀드렸듯이 가자 지구에서 아주 가까운 곳에 바로 이웃에 있는 그런 그 키부츠인데 베리 키부츠는 어떤 곳이었고 또 어떤 사람들이 모여 살던 곳이었습니까?
So Be'eri was established in 1946. Overnight there were a few settlements that started that night, and there was nothing there. It was just desert. No green and no buildings and nothing. And they had tents to start with. We have agriculture and all kinds of farming. We used to have cows and chickens and milking dairy. And we have a factory, a big printing house where we print checks and credit cards and all kinds of things. The community is, there's many babies, but there's also the people that first started the place are in the late 90s now. It's a very, very communal community, very close. About 1,000 people we were there. People who just, a working society that just want to live a peaceful life, and and we wanted to have good relationships with our Gaza neighbors. They used to work for us in agriculture and in buildings. They built our house. When the kibbutz first started, all the Negev area of Israel, there were no Jewish people there at all. And the idea was to make the Negev Jewish, to have settlements, and you know they were idealists, the people that did it. They wanted to. First of all, people came to Israel from the Holocaust in Europe, and they wanted to make the borders of Israel strong. That's why the settlements along the border. And as for the community, it's a community that wants peace. We had many activists for peace, many people who used to demonstrate for peace, and they used to take people who needed medical care from Gaza to hospital in Israel. There were lots of activists in Be'eri, because we're so close. There was a real desire to recognize that we have neighbors and we live next to them. We don't ignore them. We're not afraid of we want to live next to them and with them.
그럼 본인들도 가자 지구에 있는 그 팔레스타인 사람들에 대한 어떤 적대감이라든가 이런 것보다도 그 베리 키부츠의 그 가자 지구의 팔레스타인 사람들을 불러다가 같이 일도 하고 또 같이 시간도 보내고 이런 거에 대해서 동의하고 같이 해오셨다는 얘기인가요?
Yeah, we totally agree with the ideology. Ever since I've lived in Kibbutz Be'eri for the last 27 years, I have always believed we would have peace with the people of Gaza, and I always believed that our connection would be growing stronger because we had workers from there coming over to us, and they were very friendly and very kind, and quite often Kibbutz Be'eri would even send money to these workers because they were good friends of ours.
그러면 이번 그 10월 7일 날 하마스가 이스라엘을 공격하기 이전에 그 가자 지구에 있는 팔레스타인 사람들도 그 베리 키부츠에 있는 유대인들의 그런 그 의도, 그런 마음 이런 것들을 충분히 이해하고 공감하는 그런 편이었습니까?
I think private people knew, like the workers that used to work in Be'eri for many years, and then they couldn't come to work because there was tension. We used to send them money every year. Every holiday, we would have collect money from whoever wanted to donate. We always donated, and we used to send them money because we knew the situation is very difficult there.
그런 마음을 갖고 있는 그 유대인들을 향해서 가자 지구의 팔레스타인 사람들이 하마스와 함께 이스라엘을 공격했어요. 이번에 그 아주 끔찍한 일을 겪은 이후에 예전에 그렇게 그 팔레스타인 사람들하고 사이좋게 지내야 되겠다라고 생각했던 유대인들의 생각이 많이 변했죠.
I don't know if they changed their thoughts, or maybe they were too frightened of the Hamas movement to retaliate. I believe they were scared to speak for peace because Hamas are terrorists, and they would not allow the civilians to be pro-peace.
I think they did because it's inevitable. I mean, what happened to us is there's no excuse for it. Nothing can justify it. Obviously, on October 7th, it didn't help us. I mean, the people that by the way, many of the people that were murdered were some of the strongest activists that, even quite extreme towards the left or, peace activists who really believed that we have to live together. But I can't say if it's going to be like this. It's just that we're not making plans yet. We feel, even me, I feel that my opinions will change over time. Maybe I will, when I heal more and I'm less angry, I don't know how, but right now, yeah, people are scared.
자, 그날의 악몽을 다시 떠올리는 게 쉽지 않겠지만, 워낙 그 끔찍했던 일들을 우리는 뉴스로만 통해서 알고 있거든요. 10월 7일 당일날 두 분은 그 베리 키부츠에서 무엇을 하고 있었고, 어떻게 그 하마스가 쳐들어왔는지 알게 됐으면 또 어떻게 대피소로 이렇게 피할 수 있었는지 그 과정을 한번 좀 설명을 해주시죠.
October 6th was the preparations for the final day of the Sukkot holiday. We were planning a family and friends to come and visit us on October 7th for a big meal. So we were full of joy and happiness on October 6th. October 7th morning, we woke up to the sound of rockets being fired from Gaza into Israel. We've had rockets before many times in the past, and they only lasting 10-15 minutes, and then everything is quiet. But October 7th was different. There were hundreds, probably thousands of rockets fired that day. And very soon after we had the rockets, we had messages on our telephones to enter the bomb shelter. And we entered the bomb shelter hoping we would come out in 10 or 15 minutes and everything would be peaceful again. That never happened. We were ordered to lock ourselves inside the bomb shelter, lock our houses, lock our windows, lock our doors, and stay there until we get a message that it's safe to come out. Very, very soon afterwards, we got messages on our phones saying there are terrorists in the kibbutz. Don't leave your safe room, don't leave your bomb shelter, stay inside and stay quiet, which we did. 10-15 minutes later, people are sending messages on our group chats saying that terrorists are in the kibbutz, terrorists are in their houses, terrorists are outside, they can hear them shouting in Arabic. Very quickly we knew that this situation is something we had never experienced before. Would you like to continue?
Yeah. Within an hour, our entire neighborhood was taken by the terrorists. They arrived to our house as well. They tried to get in from the front, they couldn't, so they broke the door in the back. They tried to get into our safe room, and Ben was holding the handle because we couldn't lock it. And then they just broke the house. They just destroyed the house. We could hear everything smashing. And very quickly we could smell smoke and hear the fire. They set the house on fire because they couldn't open the safe room door. They did it in many houses. They just set the house on fire to force the people to try and escape. But we didn't escape. We stayed in that room. There was shooting and shouting all the time. It was a horrid noise, and the fire, it's just terrible to know that your house is on, everything is catching fire slowly or quickly, but there's nothing you can do about it. We were just very, very quiet. We were lying on the floor, trying to breathing very, very slowly and very flat breaths. I had to count my breathing, count in and count out like they do in yoga. I felt like I had to remind myself to breathe because I could just fall asleep and disappear. But I have my children. I have 2 boys. They were in a different apartment on the kibbutz, and I knew that I can't leave them. I was in touch with them as well during that day, and I told them we're okay, we're going to be okay, they're going to be okay. They were very worried, of course. But yeah, me and Ben decided to live that day, and it wasn't such a clear and easy decision. I mean, it could have gone the other way very easily.
그러다가 어떻게 하마스가 물러간 거를 알고 그 대피소에서 나오실 생각을 하게 된 겁니까?
When we were in the safe room, it was very dark, and we were very quiet, and there were no electricity, of course, and we could hear our memories being burned away in the house. We were there for almost 13 hours, being totally quiet, and as night came, the war in our neighborhood, in the kibbutz, was full, and fire and shooting all the time. At around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we could hear the shouting of soldiers. The language outside turned from Arabic to Hebrew, So when we heard Hebrew, people shouting Hebrew, it's soldiers from the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. We're here to rescue you. And we waited another 2 hours before they came to our house. And we could see through the blinds of the window soldiers running towards our house at around 7:30 in the night. And we put our fingers outside the window to show that we're here, we need rescuing. We didn't dare to shout, because if we shouted, maybe there's still terrorists close by and they would shoot us.
I think we couldn't shout. I think because of the smoke and because we were exhausted, I felt anyway that I can't shout. I had a paintbrush in that room, and I was banging on the window to get the attention of the soldiers so they can come and find us. And they basically pulled us out of the window because the house was still on fire.
두 분이서 이제 12시간 동안 대피소에 계시는 상황이었는데 12시간 동안 또 얼마나 또 공포스럽겠습니까? 두 분이서 그 안에서 어떤 생각들을 하고 또 어떤 대화를 나누셨습니까?
When I was sitting in the dark, it was like a sauna inside. It was very hot because obviously water pipes and smoke and heat. I have never felt so much heat. So I felt very weak and very dehydrated because we had no water and no food. But deep inside my heart, I felt that today my story does not end. I have so much more life to give. And I said to myself, I said out loud, I said to the universe, today our story does not end. I made a choice, we made a choice to survive. And it was the longest 12 hours that I've ever experienced in my life. And also I knew that even though I'm deciding I'm wanting to live, any moment the house could be bombed or terrorists could shoot through the window. We survived and it was a miracle.
두 분은 그래도 그 대피소에 들어가서 그 12시간 동안 잘 그 대피해 있다가 무사히 이제 그 생존하신 케이스인데, 뉴스를 보니까 다른 분들은 그 대피소에 들어갔다가 그 하마스의 공격을 또 많이 받았어요. 그분들은 왜 이렇게 그 대피소에서 공격을 받은 겁니까?
We feel it was luck, because in some houses they did try to open the door, and if they couldn't open the shelter door, they would shoot it and then open it, or explode it and then open it. In our house, they just didn't insist on the door. This is one thing. Another thing, at some point we opened the window a little bit, just so a little bit of air can come in, because we would choke otherwise. I mean, we wouldn't survive. I think it was a matter of luck and small decisions that we made, not to jump out of the window, to open the window a little bit, to lie on the floor, all these, and be very, very quiet. All these small decisions, but mostly luck.
Our neighbors, our direct neighbors, I sent my friend Igor, I sent him a message at 10 to 10 in the morning to ask how he is, how are you? And he never replied. I didn't know what happened to him and his wife until maybe 2 days, 3 days afterwards. I learned that they were both murdered, and our neighbors on the other side, they fired an RPG at their bomb shelter. And the window was broken, and he lost his leg because they shot through the door. But he also very sadly lost his son. His son got killed and his wife got killed when they were in the safe room. And also our neighbors opposite us, the whole family was murdered. And we only learn the terrible events of what happened to them days after this. We could not hear what was happening. We did not know what was happening. only days afterwards we learned the truth and the horror of what happened on October 7th.
In our little street of 8 families, 2 families survived, like us and one more family, and another couple that weren't at home that day. But our entire neighborhood, which is 42 houses, is going to be, well, there's no houses there anymore, and there are going to be maybe new buildings there, but they can't even fix what happened because everything is broken and burnt.
제가 지금 와 있는 곳은 가자 지구에서 얼마 떨어져 있지 않은 유대인 키부츠 마을 리르보츠라고 하는 곳인데요. 그 중에서도 여기는 그 부부가 살던 집이라고 합니다. 여기 보시면은 아마 이쪽이 그 옛날 주방이었던 것 같아요. 여기 렌지 같은 게 있고 또 이쪽에는 뭐 방이었겠죠. 근데 모두 불에 타서 뭐 흔적을 알아볼 수도 없고 여기서 아마 그 노 부부의 불에 탄 시신도 발견됐다고 합니다. 여기가 방인 것 같아요. 자, 그 얘기를 좀 구체적으로 좀 설명해 주세요. 일단 12시간 동안 대피소에 있다가 나온 뒤에 그 보니까 베리 키부츠 상황이 어떻습니까?
When we called the soldiers that we're here, come and save us, they came, they helped us through the window. The soldier that helped me was a real gentleman. Really, I was wearing my pajama, trousers and pajama top, and I took my phone and my glasses, and this is how I left my house. No shoes, no clothes, nothing. Ben also in his underwear and t-shirt and telephone, and that's it. And these are the things that we have from our house, that are left from our house. Only the things that we were actually holding on us. They took us to evacuation points. They told us to run after them. The soldiers were around us, and they're shooting all the time around us. And the soldiers said, don't look to the sides. And only weeks after I understood why. It's because there were bodies all on the sides of the roads, bodies of civilians, terrorists, soldiers, kids. It was just a horrific scenery, unbelievable. Just so we had to run through the stones and the I thought my feet really hurt. To evacuation points where we had soldiers waiting for us and giving us water. One soldier gave Ben some socks. My sister gave me shoes. She took off her shoes and gave them to me because we were all scratches and wounds and just from the escaping. It took a very long time before we were evacuated. They continued to shoot at us. We kept having to lie on the floor. And when we got to the evacuation point, it was the whole community. I was with a 96-year-old woman who needed help, and there were babies there. And it's just difficult to explain how great the disaster was.
두 분이 살던 그 메리 키부츠에 뭐 한 1,000여 명 정도 사셨다면은 뭐 우리나라로 치면 저 시골의 작은 마을 같은 그런 분위기예요. 서로 다 이제 잘 알고 친하게 지내는 분도 있고 뭐 친하진 않더라도 누군지는 다 알 수 있는 그런 사람들일 텐데 이번에 하마스의 공격으로 친하게 지냈던 분들 중에 또 희생을 당하신 분이나 또는 뭐 인질로 끌려가신 분들도 많을 것 같아요. 혹시 뭐 인질로 끌려가신 분들 중에 또 이렇게 뭐 소식 들은 게 있습니까?
Yes, we have. I was talking to one of our neighbors. She's a friend of mine. We were on the telephone that morning, and she was saying, "It's so scary. What are we going to do?" And I told her what I could say. I said, "Let's just try and be quiet. I'm sure the army will be here in a minute." And we were texting each other a few times afterwards because we had to be quiet. I didn't want to talk on the phone. And at some point, she just didn't reply anymore. And I knew she's gone. Another good friend of mine was declared missing. They didn't know what happened to him. And only, I think 2 months later, they realized that he was murdered on the kibbutz and his body was taken to Gaza. I mean, and these are just two stories about two friends, but the community is very, very close on the kibbutz because you live with the same people that you work with, and they are your children's teachers, or you are their parents' helper, or everybody's very, very connected. So each story, each person, we won't go over the list, but I can tell you my relations with the people from that horrible list, about each one of them that I had some kind of contact with.
Our neighbors who were kidnapped, we also have not heard anything, whether they're alive or not. So we just don't know. Like Merav said, the one neighbor who was taken, we thought he was kidnapped, but only learned he was dead 2 months later. There's no information coming out of Gaza on the condition or whether the hostages are alive or dead, and it's very stressful and very worrying to know these things.
Another one of our friends was writing as they went into his house. He was writing on WhatsApp. They're coming in, and he wrote Shema Israel, and he wrote it twice, and then he didn't write anymore. And he is still kidnapped. He didn't. He was kidnapped with his wife. It was a very famous picture of them wearing their pajamas, being led by the Hamas terrorists. And his wife was released, and he hasn't, and there's no sign from him. We don't know the situation of any of the hostages. We don't know if they're still alive or where they are. It's an impossible situation.
그때 10월 7일 날 하마스의 공격으로 그 베이리 키부츠 뭐 거의 사람이 살 수 없을 만큼 뭐 두 분의 집도 불에 다 타고, 집이 불에 탔으니 뭐 살림살이도 다 불에 탔을 거고, 또 입을 옷도 다 탔을 거고, 먹을 것도 이제 하나도 없을 거고, 그런 상황에서 어디로 가서 어떻게 살 수 있었습니까? 뭐 이스라엘 정부에서 그때 당시에 그 하마스의 공격을 받은 사람들을 위한 무슨 뭐 이렇게 피난처라든가 이런 걸 제공해 줬습니까?
We were taken to a hotel. The government helped with this, but civilians from Israel were just amazing, and they were donating everything for us. Everything from a toothbrush to clothes, to t-shirts, to shoes. So the day after, we arrived to the hotel like first thing in the morning or late at night. We showered and went to sleep for a bit. And the day after, there were already people, just civilians, waiting for us. And also the Sukhnut has helped a great deal, because over the next few days, it took a few days for the country to understand what's needed, because the scale of things, nobody knew how to deal with something like this. It was so great, so big, and we got help. And everything that we have we didn't have before. I mean, it's very difficult to explain, but you over the years you collect things. You know, you have your things, and suddenly nothing.
We lost a lot of precious memories as well in our house. Especially what hurts the most is home videos of our children growing up and photographs and all the things that, like Maria says, that you collect over your lifetime. Yeah, it's very hard to think about.
But when we rescued, over the next few weeks, we would have a meeting with our boys and the girlfriend of one of our boys, and we really had a mantra. We said, we are lucky to be alive. It's not to be taken for granted. It didn't happen for everybody. We're lucky to be alive, and I think that's the bottom line.
조금 전에 말씀하실 때 히브리어인 것 같아요. 소그누시라고 이렇게 표현하셨는데 소그누시가 뭘 얘기하는 겁니까?
The Jewish Agency in Israel, they were the first to respond to the emergency situation, the first to give the financial grants for businesses, and they brought us here as well to say the story, to tell the story of what happened. They've been very, very supportive.
뭐 일단은 이스라엘 정부에서 호텔을 제공해서 그곳에서 겨우 이제 살고는 있지만 그렇다고 언제까지 또 호텔에만 있을 수는 없는 일이고 다시 이제 또 집을 가져야 되고 정상적인 삶으로 돌아가야 될 텐데 어떻습니까? 다시 베에리 키부츠로 돌아가실 계획입니까? 아니면 다른 곳에 이렇게 또 삶의 터전을 마련하실 생각입니까?
It will take a very long time to rebuild Be'eri. Years. I think at least 2 years. So for the meantime, the state is actually building us a small settlement close to Beersheba, close to another kibbutz Chatzerim, and our entire community will move to live there. And there it's little houses, it's little like light buildings, like caravans or something like this. But at least each family will have its own little space and house, because right now people live in a hotel room, and it's very, very difficult for the families. As for going back to Be'eri, it will take a long time, and I think people will need to heal more before they can make this decision.
어쨌든 뭐 그날 이후로 지금까지 한 4개월 이상 시간이 흘렀는데 아무리 시간이 흘러도 그날의 그 악몽이 잊혀지지 않겠죠. 정신적으로도 많은 그 고통을 받을 것 같은데 좀 어떻습니까?
The first few months for me were very, very difficult. Even today, when I talk about October 7th, it feels like yesterday. Yeah, my mental state has been very. It's been very difficult to live with the trauma. There's some days I'm okay. I wouldn't say happy, and some days I'm very sad. But I am trying very hard to be positive about the future. I have started to study a new career, so I am trying to build myself a future.
I have to say, I'm also studying to be arts therapist, and all the therapists that I've talked to said that what happened to us takes all the theories written about dealing with trauma, and they throw them out the window. Nobody knows how to deal with this scale of trauma. It's just beyond what people could imagine. We are in therapy all the time. I mean, we have to be, because we want to go back to life.
아직까지 그 가자 지구에는 인질들이 100여 명 정도 지금 있어요. 아직 생사 확인도 안 되고, 또 지금 국제사회는 이스라엘을 향해서 인질 구출을 위한 협상에 응해라, 전쟁을 좀 그만둬라, 뭐 이렇게 요구하는 사람들도 있고, 또 아니다, 이참에 아예 그냥 하마스를 다 뿌리 뽑아야 된다, 계속해서 전쟁을 해서 아주 그냥 하마스를 격퇴해야 된다, 이렇게 주장하는 사람도 있습니다. 두 분의 개인적인 생각은 어떻습니까? 전쟁을 계속해야 된다, 아니면은 이제는 인지를 구출하기 위해서 협상을 해야 된다, 어느 쪽 생각입니까?
We can't be objective because it's our friends. So the way we see it, or the way I see it, they have to be brought back. It's 134 people at the moment, but I'm not. Of course, I'm not objective. I know these people in person. I know it's a big debate. It's a big political debate, but I can't even pretend to be objective.
I think it is terrible that politicians are playing with people's lives. It's very upsetting to think that people are sitting in Gaza for so many days, and we just want them to come home.
10월 7일 날 하마스의 기습 공격과 그 이후로 시작된 전쟁, 지금까지 계속 이어지면서 이스라엘은 참 많은 상처도 입고 고통의 시간을 보내고 있지만, 또 긍정적으로 본다면은 이번 전쟁을 통해서, 또 하마스의 기습 공격을 통해서 이스라엘 국민들이 깨닫게 된 어떤 긍정적인 부분이 있다면 어떤 것들이 있을까요?
I think the nature of the Israeli people is very you can really see it in this war, because before there's lots of arguments and lots of political opinions, but once this happened, people are united, and we really are brothers and sisters, like a big family. And despite all the differences even in belief, but the society is very much united.
많은 사람들이 희생을 당했어요. 그럼에도 불구하고 두 분을 하나님께서 특별히 살려주신 이유는 뭐라고 생각하십니까?
This is a very, very good question, and it's a question I have asked myself every day since October 7th. I do believe God or the universe has a greater purpose for us, and I think on a personal level it's to help other people to find peace and happiness and purpose in their lives. Basically to help people. This is how I have changed since October 7th.
우리 브레드 TV 시청자분들은 이스라엘을 위해서 기도하는 분들이 많이 보고 있어요. 우리 브레드 TV 시청자들에게 또 그럼에도 불구하고 또 한국에 많지는 않겠지만 이스라엘을 비난하고 팔레스타인을 지지하는 사람들도 있어요. 그리고 이번에 그 하마스가 이스라엘을 공격한 것도 이스라엘이 원래 원인을 제공해서 그렇게 된 것이다라고 이렇게 주장하는 사람들도 있습니다. 이스라엘을 위해서 기도하는 분들과 또 그렇게 이스라엘을 비난하는 그분들에게 마지막으로 해주실 얘기가 있으면 말씀해 주시죠.
I know there's injustice, and the situation in our area is very, very complicated. But nothing ever can justify what happened. Nothing can justify the killing of civilians, the vandalism. Nothing can. I'm also a peace activist. I believe in peace. I believe that violence doesn't solve anything. You can't solve things with violence. You have to talk. But what happened was not. It's not acceptable. And I really appreciate the support we get here in Korea. It's amazing. I didn't know that so many people support us, and it's beautiful, and I appreciate it.
I don't think there can be peace until Hamas no longer exists. What they did to Israel was a battle between good and evil, and on that day evil was much stronger. But on the other side, it has made Israel far, far stronger than ever before. And the will of Israel to survive and grow and become the great nation that it has the potential to be, this was all triggered by what happened on October 7th. And I have great hopes for Israel's future. especially with friends like South Korea, which it's amazing the size of the heart of South Korea and the support it's giving to us and to Israel. I'd like to say to all of your subscribers, thank you and bless you from my heart.
끔찍하고 말할 수 없는 그 고난의 시간을 잘 극복하신 두 분께 무슨 축복의 말씀을 드리고요. 아직도 마음속에 많이 남아있을 그 고통, 트라우마, 이것도 하루빨리 극복해내기를 바라겠습니다. 이번에 이렇게 한국에 와서 그 고통의 시간들을 어느 정도 좀 보상받는 그런 시간이 됐으면 좋겠고요. 이렇게 또 브레드 TV에 와서 그날의 참상에 대해서 이렇게 잘 증언해 주셔서 고맙습니다. 오늘 귀한 시간 내주셔서 고맙습니다. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.